Okay, so I'm gonna kind of do the last few questions for tonight. I'm actually having to kind of re-record this, so here we go. Um, this first one is a kind of a compound question. She always does this. This is for Ashley, and it says, "Do you think it takes longer to fall in love than out? And what is it that still lingers when you do fall out of love?" And so I'll answer that by saying that I don't really know if it takes longer to fall in love rather than out, because I know people that fall what they think is in love, very, very quickly. So I think it's definitely dependent upon the person, and what they consider to be love. I will say this for me personally, um, because it does take such a long time for me to fall in love with somebody, then it does take an even longer time to fall out, because once I do fall in love, I fall hard, and I love hard, and I love long, and I love loyal. So it's a little bit more difficult. Um, the what is it that still lingers when you do fall out of love? I don't really think that there is. I think the only time that there's something that still lingers is because we want it to. Love is a choice. It really is. I know people don't agree with me. Oh, I love him and I don't want to. That's crap, because when you get tired of it, when you don't want to anymore, then you don't. You either replace it with something, different, or you get to that place where you're indifferent. And I think that is when, see, there's a difference between not being in love with someone and not loving them anymore. When you don't love someone anymore, you're indifferent. And that's a very drastic place. There's no good or bad. It's just whatever. Next question is from, I'm going to do this anonymous, Mr. Statesville. It says, "Why do you want to give me a shot?" And, this question's interesting because, you know, I really don't know what you mean by why do I want to give you a shot? You haven't done anything to make me be like, I don't want to talk to you. We've chatted online, we've texted, we've talked on the phone, and I've said, I don't have a problem meeting you at some point in time. We've yet to do that over the last couple of months. So, you haven't given me any signs of, that I shouldn't, at some point at least meet up with you. I don't think that you're going to have a duffel bag in the trunk with with rope and duct tape. So, you know, as long as I don't get that inkling, I think we're okay. Have I sat around and thought, oh, he could be it, and ooh, no, absolutely not, because we're just not there. So, why do I want to give you a shot? I guess for me the answer is you haven't given me any reason to not talk to you. So that's how I would phrase that. Um, the next question is, this is anonymous, and the person said to me, can I ask a touchy racial question? And I said, sure. And the question is, why are Black people historically bad tippers? And I'm a little amused by this, because having been someone who's been on the other side of the table, who has been a waitress or a server, I would say there's just as many white people that are bad tippers as there are Black people. However, I will say this. I think that just as a people, we're taught to compensate based on the effort. You know what I mean? So if you didn't give a 20% service to me, don't expect to get a 20% tip. You know what I mean? I think that white people oftentimes are taught this is the standard, this is the norm, this is what you're supposed to do. And so you all just automatically add the tip in whether people deserve it or don't deserve it. Whereas I think that overall we don't do that. Um, Having said that, again, I still think there's just as many on either side. So whatever. Um, Next question. This question says, is anonymous as well. And it says, why do women think they can change a man to whom into who they want them to be? And you know that this is a man who asked this question. um, I don't know. This question actually kind of makes me a little, because I don't know that we do. I know that I know that here's what I think is a better way of saying that, because that's such a negative statement. It's not about wanting to change somebody into who we want them to be. But I think that women, because we are nurturers, because we are these incredible creatures that are meant to see the potential in someone, even in our children, where we see what we know they have the potential to be, and we love that. And so I think sometimes our loving of your potential sometimes makes us stay longer than we should. We're waiting on people to reach the fullness of who we know they're capable of being, and what we forget is that people, you can't want it for them. you know so it's not, I don't think it's about wanting to change men into who we want them to be. It's that a lot of times, even with some of the worst guys on the planet, you're able to see little specks of goodness in them, and you want to believe that they have the potential, and that they're going to realize the potential of that goodness, and finally, kind of walk into what they, who and what they should be. And most oftentimes they're not. Just because if they're not making that effort on their own, you definitely can't put that in them. And I think that most women know that. It's just a sad reality, though. Sometimes it's just like seeing a child that is gifted, right? Have you ever seen this? Like, I used to teach in school. So you would see a child that you knew had so much potential, and his little badass would be getting in trouble every time you turn around. Or he would score ridiculously well on his test, but he would only be getting a C. And there's just this thing in us as women that we want to nurture people into becoming what we know they should be. So sometimes I think that's a fault. We love and believe to a fault, if that makes sense. Last question. And I'm tired, so I'm kind of running through these a little bit faster. Um, the last question is anonymous as well. God, this is my whole anonymous section, right? It says, why don't men and women see eye to eye in relationships? And I think that this is there's so many facets to this question. Hold on a second. My dog is crying. I don't know what's wrong. Come here, Lily. She's not, I don't know. This is Lily. Anyway, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's not happy. But okay, so why don't men and women see eye to eye in relationships? I don't think that, I think there are several things wrong with us at this point for the better part of the last 30 years. So definitely you could say for the last quarter of a century, we stop. We have the majority of us being raised by single women. And in that, you have single women raising girls, saying to them, you don't need a man, and you shouldn't need a man, and be independent and be whatever. And what we forget is that we're stripping away that men, they have that thing in them. Real men want to be needed. They want to be the backbone and the strength of their families. And so when you take away that, it kind of automatically sets the relationship into a bad direction. Stop. And then in addition to that, I think you have these same men being raised by these single women who are saying, he's not going to be like his daddy, and I'm going to make sure he's sensitive and he treats his woman right. And now we have men who are overly sensitive, who are overly emotional. And it's just backwards. It's like, we complain about the men of the 50s and 60s who didn't show emotion, and that's how they were raised. And now we're at the flip side of it, where Jesus, they're crying and whining about pretty much everything. And it's just, I think that everybody's kind of out of order, if that makes sense. Nobody's kind of where they should be anymore. And that's causing a breakdown in our relationships. And what's so sad about it is this: we're all frustrated. I hear the conversations on both sides from males and females saying, everybody's asking the same questions, but no one is willing to be the person to be vulnerable, to let down their guard, to initiate the change, because God forbid we get it wrong and we get our heart broken, and then we're having to pick up the pieces all over again and get things figured out. So, we've messed up the original design, folks. And I don't know that either sex has the courage to fix it, because it's going to take work and compromise on everybody's part. And I just don't know that we have that in us. Um, the other thing I think too is, as a people, as human beings in general, we have all these great forms of technology and communication, from our cell phones to our Facebooks to our Twitters to our Uvus to our Skypes to our Tumblrs, whatever, where we can share so much with each other that we have dehumanized communication. No one's talking anymore. Not really. Not really. And, you know, um, last week I lost a very close friend of our family's who was kind of like my third brother. And within the last 2 years, we lost his mother as well. And so my youngest daughter and I, we were talking about the effect of that, and because it was very unexpected. And my daughter said, you know, Mom, she said, it's just not like it used to be when you grew up, where everybody was close and everybody, you know, we've lived here for over a year and I don't know my neighbors. You know, I couldn't tell you who they are. And if I needed anything, I wouldn't feel comfortable asking them. And we've lost that time where we were so in touch with one another that it was okay to share our highs and lows and borrow a cup of sugar and just become who we should be as people. And I think that that's evident in our relationships with each other. Quitting, not trying, and taking the easy road has become acceptable. And I know that's much further than you asked me, Mr. Anonymous. And there's still so much more that I could say, but I'm going to cut it at that and simply say that what we thought we were doing in order to survive and to overcome certain situations and scenarios has now gone in a completely different direction. And I don't know that we care enough to stop where it's going, you know? So, anyway, guys, that's it. I'm done. I know this was a shorter version than usual, but like I said, we had some stiff competition tonight with the VMAs. I'm good with it. Um, and we'll probably do this again towards the end of September. I've got a lot of things going on right now. So anyway, you guys already know. You know my Facebook and my Twitter. Hit me up. I appreciate you. Love you. Mean it. And we'll see you around next time.